if you like cello players and you like a little like light, or small combo jazz, and you also like a heavy dose of noise, maybe a little punk energy in your cello jazz, I highly recommend Janelle Lepin's Ensemble of Volcanic Ash. It just came out, I think this week or maybe last week. It is a nice, starts off kind of like typically jazz and typically like what it would sound like if a cello player was playing with the jazz ensemble. And then track two, yeah, changes the atmosphere and changes the dynamic and changes the scene. And it gets really, really interesting. So, yeah, if you like any of those things, maybe check this out because maybe it will make you fall in love with those other things. But it is a most excellent release. On to what I believe is going to be another most excellent release. What's up, people? My name is Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, and today we're going to discuss the newest, most recent, as of August 19th, 2022, Frank Zappa release. Not yet released. They announced the pre-order today. It will be released October 14th, my dad's birthday. I don't use that information on any passwords or codes, so it doesn't matter. You can know that information. It is a 2-disc release of what essentially amounts to one show. So it is material from 2 dates in fall of 1975. As you can see, those are the venues. November 21st at Zagreb and November 22nd at, however you pronounce, Ljubljana. I think the J is a Y sound, not sure. 2 shows that at the time were in Yugoslavia. The only 2 shows Frank, I think, ever played in Yugoslavia. They are now, I think, Croatia for Zagreb and Slovenia for Ljubljana. So no longer Yugoslavia. But he played those 2 shows, and this release is billed as like, it was the identical set list from each show. So it's billed as the best performance of whatever song was in that part of the set list from each night. With the exception of Black Napkins, as the Black Napkins from November 22nd has already been released on Frank Zappa Plays the Music of Frank Zappa. It was a single CD release shortly after he died. It featured like 2 versions of Black Napkins, the 20-second version plus the official version, 2 versions of Zoot Allures, 2 versions of Watermelon and Easter Hay, and then there was a Merely a Blues in A from the fall 1974 band. So I'm excited about this release as someone who considers myself a very hardcore Frank Zappa fan. I recently ranked the tours of Frank Zappa. There were 26 to my counting. This band, minus 1 member, toured a fall 75 tour and then a winter 76 tour. And even though it was the same band for the most part, I counted that as 2 tours. So that's how I came up with 26. This tour ranked as 15th. So not in the top half, but definitely not in the bottom half. And really 26 through 20 were maybe the more problematic ones, or at least the least consistent, where I really, really like this tour. The band members are problematic. I'm not going to say the name of all of them, so if you have a problem with that, just rant and rave in the comment about how I'm canceling them, though I have already purchased their art and will praise their art. I'm just not going to say their names, so whatever you want to do with that information, do it. But this is who was in the band. Frank Zappa, guitar and vocals. Terry Ted Bozio on drums. This was his 2nd tour. He debuted on the Bongo Fury tour. Andre Lewis on keyboards, bringing a very, very proggy sound. The sound effects he would use, or the sounds that he would use, the tones have a very prog element, a mid-70s prog sound to them. I like it. Another member who we'll talk about last, and then the 2 members I'm not going to name, the bass player who was the original bass player for the Mothers, excellent bass player, very consistent, has a nice sound, isn't really too far out there, probably is the least talented of all the bass players, a horrible person and individual, but he's doing a good job of supporting Frank in what is like Frank's sort of first foray into his like arena rock big sound. So that's the bass player. And then the lead singer and tenor saxophone player had been with Frank since fall of 73. He's very prominent in the Roxy videos. He's got 3 names. He returned for a short while in 84, but had drug issues and had to like drop out of the band. I'm not going to say his name either because he is also a sexual assault offender. And while I love his art, he as a person is not the greatest person. So, but you can probably figure out who these people are. You can go to Zappa.com and just look at it. All their names are there. They're not calling them out. I'm going to call them out. But the important member, the reason why this is a cool release, even though we already have this band, FZ Ozzy, that release is from a winter version of this band. Joe's Menage is a 45-minute slice of this band. Pretty good sound quality. But Norma Bell on saxophone and vocals. Some really good lengthy saxophone solos. She does a lot of the vocals, like on songs like Honey, Don't You Want a Man Like Me. We got a little snippet of her on that Joe's Menage, which I believe was her first show, the November 1st show. She didn't start with this band in September or in early October, debuted on November 1st, I'm pretty sure, finished the tour on December 9th, then quit, did not come back for the New Year shows, and was not on the winter leg. But I'm really excited to hear her in good sound. I have a tape that is labeled November 22nd. I think it's a single side, 45 minutes. I don't think it's the first 45 minutes. I think there's some cuts in there. It's got a very early Poodle lecture on there, as does this. As does the 21st, so the 22nd also has one. And the one thing that I can kind of discern from that pretty poor sounding tape is that Norma Bell is involved a lot. Frank's given her a lot to do. She gets some good solos. She gets some good vocals. I'm really excited to have like 2 full CDs of her and what I'm assuming is really good sound. That Black Napkins on Frank Zappa Meets the Mothers plays the music of Frank Zappa. I always think of these in terms of acronyms, and both Frank Zappa Meets the Mothers of Invention and Frank Zappa plays the music of Frank Zappa. I always write acronym rise, so I keep confusing those. So I'm really excited to get a slice of her. So anyways, one just aside, Universal Music Group bought the Zappa catalog a couple months ago, and I think there was discussion like, what exactly does that mean? Are they going to just like re-release a bunch of stuff? What are they going to do with this material? And my hope was that they would allow sort of the Zappa family trust, like brain trust, the ones responsible for picking what gets released, to focus solely on the music, and maybe the Universal Music Group could like concentrate on the packaging and the distribution and promotion and all that stuff, thus lowering the costs of the CD. This is 2 discs. It's $19.99, much more reasonable than most of their releases. There is a much more expensive version, maybe like $39, $34. That is 4 like limited edition Frank Zappa photos. I did not get that. I got the non-photo edition. The photos don't appeal to me, but you have those choices. So you still have the more reasonably priced CD release, and then you have the one that has like the goodies. So yeah, there's that. And I think that's about all I have to say. So the actual set list is your typical set list from this tour. I think the highlight of this tour is some of the arrangements of the songs are pretty neat. Some of the songs that are played, I think, are pretty neat. Frank Zappa's guitar playing is exceptional, of course. It is really interesting to hear him with Bozio at an early stage in Bozio's sort of Zappa career. Started in 75, he would be there all the way through winter of 78. So Bozio still has a long road ahead of him, but it's neat to hear that Bozio energy. So what we get as far as the set list, we get an opening called Managua. We get a Stinkfoot, a Poodle lecture. I'm pretty sure this is one of the first Poodle lectures. A Dirty Love, How Could I Be Such a Fool, Ain't Got No Heart, I'm Not Satisfied, Black Napkins. This is from the 21st. The one from the 22nd, I believe, is the one that's on Frank Zappa, plays the music of Frank Zappa. We get an Advanced Romance, Honey, Don't You Want a Man Like Me, Illinois Anima Bandit. I think this was your kind of earlier, more raw version of Illinois Anima Bandit that had a kind of different intro to it than the more like stately, the more traditional blues vamp that we would eventually get. Carolina Hardcore Ecstasy, which I think is still played pretty fast at this point, if I'm not mistaken. And then the best part of this tour in particular, Lonely Little Girl has some amazing guitar playing by Frank, just kind of riffing on that theme. Take Your Clothes Off When You Dance. What's the Ugliest Part of Your Body? And I think I said this on that Fall 75 review. The transition from what's the ugliest part of your body into the monstrous Chunga's Revenge, the da-na-na, na-na-na, that part is just fantastic. And it makes that run of songs from Lonely, Take Your, What's the Ugliest, Chunga's fantastic. There's a tape flip or a CD switch in the middle of Chunga's Revenge. There were usually more than one solo. I think everybody got a solo in Chunga's Revenge. I think maybe there'd been a sax solo and then a keyboard solo and then a Frank solo. Let me check. On some of them, the saxophone player gets a solo and then Lewis gets a solo, then Frank gets solo. I know Norma on the 31st show, she was a guest on Halloween, but didn't specifically join the band until the first. She has a saxophone solo, so don't know what this Chunga Revenge is going to offer up at this stage. But generally, Lewis will get a solo, Frank will get a solo, and either Bell or the saxophone player should have a solo before that. But again, Frank solo, probably one of the reasons why it's divided. We know it's more of an indulgent solo. I think he drops a 5-5-5 in the middle of this solo. There is a 5-5-5 somewhere in the show. It's not on the set list. Pretty sure it's in the Chunga's Revenge. That's the part that makes the most sense. So there's a Chunga's Revenge 5-5-5 solo. Then we get Terry's drum solo. Then we get the Zoot Lures, which is just so skeletal at this point, and just this almost like it's there. You know what Frank is going to do. The chords are all there. But it's just almost this like the most skeletal thing Frank has probably ever done ever. Yeah, just phenomenal. Zoodlers on here are crazy. There is on the following tour he would drop that sort of Ship Ahoy coda. That's not on this tour. You just kind of get a sort of meandering solo afterwards that kind of explores a lot of different ideas. There's no times on this, so I have no idea how long any of these are going to be. Filthy Habits. It's definitely Filthy Habits. It's an early version. It isn't quite as sinister, isn't quite as doomy as it would be the following tour. But it's there. You recognize it. Frank gets some good guitar playing in. These are based on what I've heard from examples of this a couple weeks later in the tour, so I'm sure it's still pretty strong here. That might be the end of the set, because then we get a Camarillo Brillo, a Muffin Man, and I'm the Slime, and a San Bernardino. So it's a pretty solid set list. I think the only things I can't say I'm looking forward to, the Poodle Lecture, even though it will be in an earlier form, is kind of interesting. Honey, Don't You Want a Man Like Me might be saved by the fact that Norma Bell, I think, is doing the majority of the lyrics. And the Illinois Anima Bandit, just not a fan of that song in general. And these early versions are raw enough to be kind of interesting. I think Norma Bell has a pretty good presence in this based on other tapes. But who knows? But other than that, there's probably going to be some absolutely fantastic stuff on here, at least as far as the guitar solos, the Andre Lewis solos, the Bell saxophone solos, any Bozio presence at all. There are a handful of bonus tracks, a wind-up working in a gas station, which I believe is instrumental at this point. I don't think there's any lyrics. Another drum solo, and that's all. These are also from the 22nd. So I think it must be that the main set list is what was played at both shows, and this wind-up working might have only been played on the 22nd. Again, I don't think I've seen a set list for the 21st out there. There might be one out there now, and I wasn't aware of it when I was heavy into tape trading. And then we get another Zoodalure. So we get two Zoodalures on this. So yeah, that's what it will be. I'm excited. If you want more of like my thoughts on this tour, I did make a video about this tour and I comment more in depth about what songs we're playing. It is on this channel. It was, I think I ranked the tours. It was Fall 75 and it was number 15. So, but there are more thoughts on that. Also, if you want to see the FC Aussie, there's more thoughts about a later version of this band, and then Joe's Menage, there's a review of that stuff. But yeah, I'm going to get this. I've already got it, actually. I pre-ordered it. I think it should sound good. Also, this was something I want to say that when Frank Zappa Plays the Music of Frank Zappa was released, either in the booklet that came with it, which I don't think is the case, or interviews that Dweezil gave, around the time of that release, there was talk about how the entire show would make a good future release because they had the show and it was recorded professionally for some reason, and so they had the material and maybe they would release it. So now, what that came out like 95, 96, so like what, many years later, 27, 26 years later, we finally get the full show. So anyways, this is a good thing, man. I think this is a good sign that the ZFT is still going in the right direction, that Universal Music Group is still going in the right direction, that maybe what drops after this is we end the year with like an 82 like 6 CD set release, box set release in celebration of the anniversary of the 82 tour. Maybe we'll hear about that sometime around Halloween, since it doesn't look like we're getting a Halloween release this year. But yeah, good stuff, man. Like I'm excited. I think you should be excited. But if you're hesitant, if you don't know, check out those other videos. Go listen to FC Ozzy. You'll get a good sense of kind of what this band sounds like in its more fuller form, a more developed form. I think some of maybe the early rawness of this is to its benefit. But yeah, anyways, that's it. That's all I got to say. Let me know what you think. Comment below, like, subscribe. You know all how it works. And just go listen to more music, people, because as they say, as one man once said, music is the best. Right? All right, peace, y'all. Have a good weekend because it's Friday here when I'm making this. Talk to y'all later.